My wife thought I was asleep when she whispered into her phone, "Don't worry, his heart attack makes this easier. I can control him completely now." I'd spent 5 years building bridges while she systematically destroyed our marriage. "Girls, let me introduce you to my personal doormat," she'd laugh to her friends, not knowing I was just outside the door. The betrayal nearly killed me, literally. My doctor gave me a choice: leave this toxic marriage or prepare for a funeral. What happens when a doormat finally stands up? When a man discovers his cheating wife has been playing him for a fool? Sometimes revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting out and taking everything you've earned with you. This is how I transformed from her punchline into her worst nightmare. My name is Daniel Hughes. I'm 38 years old, and I've been a structural engineer with Wilson Construction for the past decade. My wife, Melissa, soon-to-be ex-wife, is a marketing manager at Horizon Brands. We met at a corporate mixer 7 years ago, married after a whirlwind romance, and for a while, I thought I'd hit the jackpot. I still remember that Tuesday in October like it was yesterday. I just wrapped up the Davidson Bridge project, a structural nightmare that had nearly bankrupted our company. 3 months of 80-hour weeks, sleeping on a cot in my office, and I'd pulled it off when everyone said it couldn't be done. The mayor was planning a ribbon-cutting ceremony, the company's stock had rebounded, and for the first time in my career, I felt like a genuine hero. I left work early, stopping to pick up a bottle of Melissa's favorite champagne. After years of her subtle digs about how her career in marketing was more impactful than my just building things, I finally had something impressive to share. Something that even she couldn't downplay. I pulled into our driveway around 3 p.m., noticing several unfamiliar cars parked outside. Melissa had mentioned something about hosting her marketing team for a strategy session, but I figured they'd be gone by now. I decided to slip in quietly through the side door and surprise her later. As I approached the house, I could hear laughter coming from our living room. Loud, uninhibited laughter that made me pause. Through the partially open window, I could hear Melissa's voice, crystal clear in the afternoon air. "Girls, let me introduce you to my personal doormat." She laughed, and the room erupted with her. "Daniel is such a pushover. It's almost too easy. He's been killing himself on this bridge project for months, coming home exhausted, and I just have to pout a little to get him to still clean the kitchen and rub my feet." I froze, my hand gripping the champagne bottle so tightly I thought it might shatter. "You're so lucky," one of her friends said. "Josh would never." "It's not luck," Melissa replied smugly. "It's strategy. Men like Daniel are simple. Make them feel guilty, throw in some affection when they're about to snap, and they'll do anything to keep the peace." "Does he ever stand up for himself?" another voice asked. "God, no," Melissa snorted. "Remember last summer when I accidentally dented his car? He apologized to me for parking it in a bad spot. The man's been conditioned like one of Pavlov's dogs." More laughter. My vision blurred at the edges as 5 years of compromises suddenly reframed themselves in my mind. The career opportunities I passed up because they'd require relocation. The savings account that had mysteriously dwindled funding Melissa's essential shopping. The way my friends had gradually stopped calling because I was never available. I stood there, champagne growing warm in my hands, as my wife continued detailing my inadequacies to her appreciative audience. But something strange was happening inside me. Instead of anger, I felt clarity. Instead of hurt, I felt resolve. This doormat was about to be rolled up for good. I didn't confront Melissa that night. Instead, I placed the champagne bottle back in my truck and drove to a nearby park where I used to jog before marriage consumed my free time. The autumn leaves crunched beneath my feet as I walked the perimeter, my mind replaying Melissa's words on an excruciating loop. My chest felt tight, like something was physically crushing me. At first, I blamed it on the emotional gut punch, but when the sensation intensified and my left arm began to tingle, I recognized the warning signs. My father had died of a heart attack at 49, a fate I'd been determined to avoid. The urgent care center was nearly empty when I arrived. The doctor, a woman with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, ordered an EKG and blood tests. 2 hours later, she delivered the news. "Mr. Hughes, you're experiencing the early signs of coronary artery disease. Your blood pressure is dangerously high, and your stress tests are concerning for a man your age." "What does that mean exactly?" I asked, still feeling oddly detached. It means if you don't make immediate lifestyle changes, you're heading for a major cardiac event within a year, possibly sooner. She peered at me over her glasses. Is there significant stress in your life, Mr. Hughes? I almost laughed. You could say that. Well, whatever it is, it's killing you. Literally. I'm prescribing medication, but you need to eliminate the stressors in your life. Consider this a serious warning. I left with prescriptions and pamphlets about heart-healthy diets, but all I could think about was Melissa. The woman I'd built my life around was my biggest health risk. I checked into a motel instead of going home. I texted Melissa that I was working late and would crash at the office, a lie she'd accept without question because it benefited her. The relationship crisis I was facing now had a literal deadline. As I lay on the lumpy motel bed, staring at water stains on the ceiling, I made my decision. I wouldn't just leave. I'd disentangle myself completely and strategically. The trust issues that had surfaced today were just symptoms of a deeper rot. The next morning, I visited a divorce attorney before work. Barbara Winters had a reputation for handling high-conflict divorces with surgical precision. Your wife sounds like a piece of work, she said after I explained the situation. Have you documented her financial indiscretions? Not yet. Start now. Record conversations if your state allows it. Track expenses. We'll need to move quickly if we want to protect her assets. She looked at my medical report. And your health. I nodded, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Control. One more thing, Barbara added as I was leaving. Don't let her know you're onto her. The element of surprise is our biggest advantage. I drove to work with a prescription for heart medication in my pocket and a plan for freedom in my mind. I maintained a facade at home while secretly laying groundwork for my exit. During the day, I was still the dedicated engineer everyone knew. At night, I documented Melissa's spending habits and recorded her manipulative behaviors when legally possible. The emotional affair she was having with our lifestyle, at my expense, was coming to an end. 2 weeks into my covert operation, I received a call that changed everything. My mother had suffered a massive stroke. I dropped everything and drove 3 hours to the small town where I grew up. Mom had raised me alone after Dad died, working 2 jobs while still attending every science fair and baseball game. She'd never quite warmed to Melissa, something I'd attributed to generational differences. Now I wondered if she'd seen what I'd been blind to. She doesn't look at you the way you look at her, Mom had once said after our engagement. I dismissed her concern as old-fashioned thinking. The hospital was quiet when I arrived. Mom lay small and fragile, her vibrant personality reduced to a shell tethered to beeping machines. The doctor's prognosis was grim, brain damage too extensive for recovery. I sat beside her through the night, holding her hand, thinking about all she'd sacrificed for me. At dawn, she briefly regained consciousness. Daniel, she whispered, her speech slurred but determined. The letter. Top drawer. My bedroom. She slipped away 12 hours later, peacefully, with me still holding her hand. After the initial arrangements, I went to her modest house to find the letter she'd mentioned. The envelope was labeled simply for Daniel, when you need it. Inside was a handwritten note and her wedding ring. My dearest son, it began. If you're reading this, I'm gone. There are things mothers know that we sometimes can't say aloud. You deserve someone who treasures you, not just what you provide. Don't waste your life trying to earn love from someone incapable of giving it freely. Your father adored me, even when we had nothing. That's the blueprint for happiness. Tears blur my vision. Even in death, she was protecting me, giving me permission to seek something better. As I was packing her belongings, my phone buzzed with a text from Melissa. When are you coming back? The Hendersons invited us to their lake house this weekend. No condolences, no offer to help. Just impatience at my absence, disrupting her social calendar. I checked my mother's jewelry box and found another surprise. $75,000 in savings bonds and a deed to 10 acres of land I hadn't known she owned. She'd lived frugally her entire life, but had quietly built a legacy for me. At the funeral 2 days later, Melissa finally appeared, dressed inappropriately fashionably, checking her phone throughout the service. As people shared stories about Mom, I caught Melissa rolling her eyes at my aunt's emotional tribute. That night at the hotel, I overheard her on the phone. God, I'm so glad this is almost over. His mother was such a buzzkill, just like him. At least we might get something out of her house. The last thread of doubt snapped. This marriage was beyond saving. After Mom's funeral, I threw myself into preparation with renewed purpose. Her death had clarified everything. Life was too short to spend another day as someone's doormat. Barbara, my divorce attorney, became my closest confidant as we built a case that would leave Melissa no wiggle room. "We've got enough financial evidence," Barbara said during our fourth meeting. "But if you could get her on record discussing her manipulation tactics, we'd be bulletproof." I began recording our conversations when legal, capturing Melissa's subtle digs and manipulation. The password-protected folder on my secure cloud storage grew thicker by the day. What I didn't anticipate was betrayal from within my inner circle. After a particularly rough day, Melissa had accidentally maxed out my credit card on a shopping spree. I met my oldest friend Mike for beers. Halfway through my second drink, I confided in him about my plans. "I've known for years she's been using me, man. The things she says when she thinks I can't hear." I shook my head, the hurt still fresh. "I'm finally getting out." Mike seemed supportive, asking thoughtful questions about my strategy. I revealed key details about the evidence I'd gathered, the timeline for filing, even Barbara's name. It felt good to finally talk about it openly with someone I trusted. 3 days later, Melissa confronted me the moment I walked through the door. "So you're planning to divorce me?" Her voice was ice cold, her expression a mixture of fury and calculation. "Mike told me everything." My blood ran cold. "What?" "He called me right after your little happy hour. Seemed to think I should know my husband's been sneaking around with lawyers and building some pathetic case against me." The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. Mike and Melissa had always been friendly, but this level of disloyalty blindsided me. "He was concerned about you," she continued, her tone softening into something practiced and manipulative. "Said you seem paranoid, unstable. I'm worried too, honey. You haven't been yourself since your mom died." She stepped closer, placing a hand on my chest in a gesture that once would have seemed loving. "I think you need help, Daniel. Professional help." I saw her strategy immediately: paint me as mentally unstable, the grieving son having a breakdown. It would undermine everything I'd built if she managed to sell that narrative. "I want access to your phone and email," she demanded. "If you've got nothing to hide, it shouldn't be a problem." The trust issues in our marriage had reached their breaking point, but not in the way she expected. Looking into her eyes, I no longer saw the woman I'd married, just an opponent to be outmaneuvered. "Of course," I said, feigning defeat. "Whatever you need to feel secure." She smiled, believing she'd won. She had no idea I'd already created decoy accounts for her to discover while my real evidence remained safely out of reach. The game had changed, but I've been playing chess while she thought we were playing checkers. Living with someone who thinks you're broken is surprisingly liberating. Over the next few weeks, I gave Melissa exactly what she expected: a defeated husband grateful for her support. I attended the therapy sessions she arranged, where I spoke vaguely about grief and work stress, never mentioning our marriage problems. The therapist, sensing there was more to the story, gave me her private number. "Call if you need to talk without your wife present," she whispered after our third session. Meanwhile, I created a parallel life Melissa couldn't see. I set up new email accounts, rented a small storage unit for important documents, and started transferring small amounts to a private account that wouldn't raise red flags. My decoy phone and laptop contained just enough suspicious activity to keep her occupied: searches for grief support groups and heart health forums. The real work happened during my lunch breaks or on the burner phone I kept at the office. Barbara advised me to document every manipulative conversation and questionable expense. "We're building a case that shows a pattern of emotional and financial abuse," she explained. "Judges don't take kindly to spouses who exploit their partner's health issues." A surprising ally emerged during this time: Melissa's younger sister, Jen. She cornered me after a family dinner, whispering, "I know what she's doing to you. She did the same to her ex before you." I'd always thought Melissa's previous relationship ended because her ex was unfaithful. According to Jen, that was Melissa's carefully crafted narrative. The truth was far different. "He caught her cheating with her boss," Jen revealed, glancing around to ensure we weren't overheard. "She flipped the script, somehow convinced everyone he was the cheater. Even their friends believed her." "Why are you telling me this?" I asked, wary of another trap. "Because she's doing it again. That new marketing director she keeps mentioning, they're not just colleagues. Jen slipped me a USB drive. Email exchanges, hotel receipts. I'm sorry, Daniel. No one deserves this. The evidence of Melissa's affair with her boss was irrefutable. Photos, messages, credit card statements showing rooms booked during marketing conferences. I added it to my growing file of evidence. Strangely, discovering her infidelity hurt less than her systematic dismantling of my self-worth. The cheating was almost a relief. Concrete proof I wasn't imagining everything else. I continued playing my role, the recovering heart patient working through grief, grateful for his supportive wife. I nodded when she criticized my choices, apologized when she manufactured conflicts, and never let on that I could now see through every manipulation tactic. All while my exit strategy solidified, brick by careful brick. The foundation of our marriage had crumbled long ago. Now I was building something new on its ruins, a future where I wouldn't be anyone's doormat. My mother's ring sat in my desk drawer at work, a daily reminder of what real partnership should look like. Soon I'd honor her memory by reclaiming my dignity. 3 months into my covert preparation, disaster struck. I was presenting the final phase of the Davidson Bridge project to the city council when a crushing pain enveloped my chest. My vision tunneled. Voices around me became distant, and I collapsed mid-sentence. I woke up in the ICU 2 days later. Dr. Patel, a cardiologist with kind eyes and brutal honesty, explained I'd suffered a moderate heart attack. Your arterial blockage is progressing faster than we'd expect, even with your family history, she said, reviewing my chart. What's causing such extreme stress in your life, Mr. Hughes? For the first time, I told someone the unvarnished truth about my marriage. Dr. Patel listened without judgment, then delivered her verdict. From a medical perspective, your current home situation is as dangerous as smoking 2 packs a day. You need to make changes immediately, or I can't guarantee you'll survive the year. The hospital stay gave me unexpected clarity and leverage. Melissa performed the role of devoted wife brilliantly for the nurses and doctors, but I caught her texting during my cardiologist's explanations and complaining to her sister about canceling a spa weekend because of my inconvenient health crisis. Most revealing was what happened when she thought I was asleep. He's stable now, she told someone on the phone, voice hushed. Don't worry, this doesn't change our plans. No, if anything, this makes it easier. I can use his health issues to control the narrative if he starts acting up again. She had no idea my phone was recording beneath my pillow. On my 3rd day, when Melissa left to grab lunch, actually meeting her boss, according to her location on our shared family plan, Barbara visited. She was horrified by my condition. This changes everything, she said, gripping my hand. We need to accelerate the timeline. Your health gives us grounds for emergency measures. She outlined a revised strategy that would protect my medical interests and financial assets while fast-tracking the divorce. When Melissa returned, she found Dr. Patel reviewing my discharge instructions. Mr. Hughes needs a stress-free environment for recovery, the doctor emphasized. Anything less puts him at serious risk for another, potentially fatal, cardiac event. Melissa nodded solemnly. I'll take perfect care of him. Actually, I interjected, my voice weak but determined. My mother's house is already set up for cardiac recovery. My cousin Sarah is a nurse and has offered to help. But, Melissa began, her facade cracking slightly. It's an excellent arrangement, Dr. Patel interrupted, having already been briefed on my situation. Professional care in a peaceful setting is exactly what he needs. Caught between maintaining her caring wife performance and arguing against medically sound advice, Melissa reluctantly agreed. She had no idea she'd just lost her last bit of leverage in our failing marriage, or that the next time she saw me, I'd be serving her divorce papers. My 6 weeks of recovery at Mom's house transformed me physically and mentally. Away from Melissa's constant manipulation, my blood pressure normalized, and I regained strength. Sarah, my nurse cousin, monitored my progress while Barbara finalized our legal strategy. Everything's ready, Barbara confirmed during her weekly visit. The evidence is overwhelming. Financial records, recordings, witness statements about her affair. She won't know what hit her. The timing couldn't have been better. Melissa had been planning a dinner party for her marketing team, including her boss and lover. She'd spent thousands on catering and new furniture. the perfect backdrop for her facade as the successful professional with the adoring husband. I returned home the day before the party, playing the role of grateful husband. The doctors say I'm well enough to resume normal activities. I told her. I wouldn't want to miss your important night. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. That's wonderful, honey. Just try not to mention your health issues too much. It's a bit of a downer. The next evening, guests arrived at 7. 12 people from Melissa's company, including Richard, her boss and secret lover. I played the perfect host, refilling drinks and nodding appreciatively during discussions about marketing campaigns I couldn't care less about. Halfway through dinner, Melissa stood to propose a toast. I want to thank everyone for coming, especially Richard for his incredible mentorship. The glance they shared was brief, but telling. Actually, I interjected, rising from my seat. I'd like to propose a toast too. I pulled an envelope from my jacket. To new beginnings. Daniel. Melissa warned, her voice tight. Perhaps save it for later? I think now is perfect, I replied, removing the papers from the envelope. Melissa, these are divorce papers. They detail your affair with Richard, your financial misappropriations, and your documented pattern of emotional abuse. The room fell silent. Richard paled, while Melissa's expression cycled rapidly between shock, rage, and calculation. You're clearly still unwell, she attempted, forcing a concerned laugh. The heart attack affected his mind, she explained to the stunned guests. That's why I recorded everything. I continued calmly, placing my phone on the table and playing her conversation from the hospital. Her voice filled the room. This makes it easier. I can use his health issues to control the narrative if he starts acting up again. You've been served, Melissa, I concluded as her marketing team exchanged uncomfortable glances. Your personal doormat has officially been rolled up. I walked out, leaving behind the chaos of her collapsing world. For the first time in years, I breathed easily, my heart steady and strong. I stayed at a hotel that night, silencing my phone as it buzzed with frantic messages from Melissa. The next morning, Barbara called with an update that exceeded my expectations. Richard's wife was at the dinner, she said, barely containing her excitement. Apparently, she had suspected something but needed proof. She confronted Richard immediately after you left, and he confessed everything. How does that affect us? I asked, sipping my first stress-free coffee in years. Richard's wife is the daughter of Thompson Financial CEO. She's demanding Richard resign to avoid a scandal. Melissa's position is also being reevaluated. But here's the real win. Richard's wife called me this morning, offering to testify about the affair if needed. Melissa's carefully constructed world was imploding faster than I'd anticipated. Without her job or lover as safety nets, she had no choice but to negotiate. When I finally checked my messages, I found 37 texts and 12 voicemails from Melissa. The progression was telling. Anger, threats, fake tears, attempts at gaslighting, and finally, desperate pleas to talk. I waited 3 days before agreeing to meet at a neutral location, a conference room at Barbara's office. Melissa arrived looking disheveled, her designer outfit replaced by simple jeans and a sweater. The change was jarring. She'd always prioritized appearances. You've ruined everything, she began, voice trembling. My job, my reputation. You ruined those things yourself, I corrected calmly. I just exposed the truth. I made mistakes, she conceded, attempting the vulnerability she'd weaponized throughout our marriage. But we can fix this. Go to counseling, rebuild. There's nothing to rebuild, I interrupted, sliding documents across the table. These are my terms for an uncontested divorce. You get the car and a reasonable settlement. I keep the house and my retirement accounts. That's insulting, she snapped, her facade cracking. I deserve half of everything. Barbara, who had been silently observing, spoke up. Ms. Hughes, we have documented evidence of your infidelity, financial misconduct, and what a court would likely consider emotional abuse. Your alternative to accepting these generous terms is a lengthy, public trial where all this evidence becomes court record. Color drained from Melissa's face as she recognized her lack of options. I need time to think. 24 hours, I replied. Then the offer expires, and we proceed to court. As I stood to leave, Melissa grabbed my arm. How did you do this? You were always so compliant. I removed her hand gently, but firmly. I was never your doormat, Melissa. I was just waiting for the right time to wipe my feet and walk away. Her expression, a mixture of shock, anger, and a dawning respect, told me everything. The woman who thought she knew me completely had never really known me at all. The divorce was finalized 3 months later with surprising efficiency. Melissa, facing unemployment and social ostracism, accepted my terms without further fight. The woman who had dominated our marriage surrendered with a whimper rather than risk public exposure in court. My health improved dramatically once the divorce was finalized. Dr. Patel was amazed at my recovery during my 6-month follow-up. Your blood work is better, your blood pressure is normal, and your stress test results are impressive, she noted, reviewing my chart. Removing yourself from that toxic relationship might have literally saved your life. With my mother's inheritance and my restored health, I had an opportunity few get, a completely fresh start. I renovated her small house, transforming it into a peaceful retreat that erased the memories of my marriage. The land she'd left me turned out to be valuable for commercial development, providing additional financial security. At work, the successful Davidson Bridge project earned me a promotion to chief structural engineer. My newfound confidence changed how colleagues perceived me. The passive team member became a decisive leader who commanded respect. I remained cautious about dating, though opportunities arose. Sarah, my nurse cousin, introduced me to her friend Charlotte, a kindergarten teacher with a warm laugh and straightforward manner. We started with coffee, progressed to dinner, and found ourselves genuinely enjoying each other's company without manipulation or hidden agendas. You're different from most men I date, Charlotte observed during our 5th dinner together. There's no game playing, no hidden expectations. I've had enough manipulation to last a lifetime, I replied honestly. I'd rather be upfront about everything. She appreciated my candor, and we settled into a relationship built on mutual respect and authentic communication. After years of emotional isolation, having someone who genuinely valued my thoughts and feelings was profoundly healing. A year after my divorce, I ran into Mike, the friend who had betrayed me to Melissa. He approached hesitantly at a local coffee shop. Daniel, I wanted to apologize, he began awkwardly. What I did was unforgivable. She manipulated me, made me think you were having some breakdown and needed intervention. I studied him, remembering our 20-year friendship before Melissa's interference. That's the thing about manipulators, I replied. They're convincing, but friends should know better. He nodded, accepting my implicit refusal of reconciliation. Some betrayals permanently alter relationships, and trust, once fundamentally broken, rarely rebuilds completely. As he walked away, I realized how much I'd changed. The old Daniel might have accepted his apology to avoid conflict. The new Daniel understood that maintaining healthy boundaries sometimes meant letting go of damaged relationships. That evening, I placed my mother's wedding ring in a small wooden box along with a note, "For Charlotte, when the time is right." The blueprint she had given me for happiness was finally taking shape. 2 years after that fateful day, when I overheard Melissa's cruel words, I found myself at the Capitol Grill, the same restaurant where we'd had our first date. This time, Charlotte sat across from me, her eyes crinkling with genuine warmth as she described her kindergartner's latest art project. I fingered the small box in my pocket, my mother's ring waiting for the right moment. Over 18 months together, Charlotte had proven herself the antithesis of Melissa, honest, supportive, and treating our relationship as a partnership rather than a power dynamic. Midway through dessert, my phone buzzed with a notification. A social media update from a mutual acquaintance showed Melissa at a charity event, looking noticeably different. Her designer clothes replaced with something subdued, her expression lacking its former confidence. "Someone you know?" Charlotte asked, noticing my momentary distraction. "Someone I used to know," I replied, putting the phone away. After dinner, we walked along the riverfront, where Charlotte had first told me she loved me. When we reached our favorite spot, I took her hand. "You know my history," I began. "You know how close I came to losing myself completely in a relationship built on manipulation and betrayal." She nodded, her eyes encouraging. "What you may not know is how completely you've changed my perspective on what partnership should be." I took out the box and opened it, revealing my mother's ring. This was my mother's, Her last gift was advice to find someone who treasures me for who I am, not what I provide. I found that person in you. Charlotte's eyes welled with tears as I knelt. Will you marry me? Yes, she answered without hesitation. But only if you promise one thing. Anything. Promise you'll always be the strong, self-respecting man I fell in love with. Never someone's doormat. I laughed, sliding the ring onto her finger. That's the easiest promise I'll ever make. 3 months later, we held a small ceremony in my mother's garden. As we exchanged vows, I caught sight of a familiar figure at the edge of the property, Melissa, watching from a distance. Our eyes met briefly before she turned and walked away. I felt no anger, no lingering hurt, just gratitude for the painful lesson that had ultimately led me here. Sometimes you need to completely lose your way before finding the right path. That evening, as Charlotte and I danced under strings of garden lights, she whispered, "Are you happy?" I pulled her closer, feeling the steady, strong rhythm of my healed heart. Happier than I ever knew was possible.